Trance. The Trance DJ.
Psytrance.
Trance.
What's going on, guys? I got a few comments from you guys telling me I should do a trance video next. So, trance music it is. What is trance music? Where did it come from? In the early 1990s, a German artist named Klaus Schultz liked to mix minimalist ambient sounds with a repetitive rhythm. These songs weren't 3 to 4 minutes long that we hear today. These are long tracks that are over 20 or 30 minutes long that will take you through this musical journey, as opposed to trance music today, where you would have an intro, a build-up, a drop, a break, a build-up, a drop, an outro. Songs back there were just one long song that to some people it might just be boring. And that's where another German artist comes along by the name of Sven Väth, who says, all right, I'm gonna grab your ambient sounds and I'm gonna grab techno's kick drum and I'm gonna smash them together. And then we hear a sound like this. That's where we start hearing more of a techno feel in trance. A lot of people confuse techno with trance, but the main difference is in techno there's more of a rhythm, that kick drum, and in trance it's more melodic. Because trance is from Europe, it just happens to be where they have a lot of classical music influence. So classical music influenced a lot of the trance melodies today. 1994 comes along. India was shifting into electronic music, more specific Psy electronic, which is psychedelic electronic. There's a whole culture around that type of music. And they say to Sven Väth, hey, we like the music that you produce, however that kick drum is too loud. So let's take your music and let's just put more of a focus on the trancey ambient sound. And that's where Goa trance was born. That's GOA. Eventually became Psy trance, which is psychedelic trance. The culture of Goa trance in India was so big that trance music pretty much splits in half. You get the half that's more focused on the ambient euphoric sounds, and the other half that's more focused on the rhythm and that kick. Okay, so it's now 1995. There's new music out there that people really don't know what it is. You see artists from all over the world start to like experiment and like make their own sound, which is where Robert Miles comes from. An Italian producer, was heavily influenced by classical music. His song Children, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard before. Took the trance sound that he heard and he incorporated strings and a piano to it. So that's what a lot of us would call dream trance, which is more, I guess, more euphoric. It's kind of like you're in a dream, hence the name. And since the music is so new at that point, artists started blending whatever they can. So you can see trance styles start to mix with house, techno, progressive house. Towards the end of the 1990s, we start to see another split in trance. It splits in half again. On one half you have the progressive trance, a trance track that evolves over time in a song, and the other side you have more the uplifting trance. Oliver Lieb, Breather, Tilt start to dabble in the progressive trance, and artists like Paul van Dyk, Armin van Buuren, Tiesto, their sound was more uplifting. Big drops, breakdowns, the more modern sound of trance music. Even though it's modern, you still have the fundamental classical elements in there, like the classical chord progression or the classical melodies are still there. Like if you study music, a lot of trance music sounds very familiar to them. And that's the 2000s comes along and trance spikes up, right? Because it went from Europe to America. America sees it, they like the sound. You have a lot of big commercial pop artists start to collaborate with trance producers, and it becomes kind of trendy. You know, it becomes very popular. But if you haven't seen my previous video on disco, any trend that like people ride eventually falls down, and pretty much happened like that between 2002 and 2007. Trance music starts to lose its popularity. After it peaked, indie bands and rock bands started to, in a way, replace trance music in the early 2000s. Similar to what happened with disco music, trance was pushed underground because it stopped being commercially played. Almost identical to disco music, it started evolving underground, and artists didn't like that commercial mainstream sound that they were hearing, so they started to make the music less complex. And underground, that's where hard trance was born, which is a combination between hard house and trance music. There you have it, guys. Quick lesson on trance music. It's still around today. Artists like Tiesto and Armin van Buuren still produce music. They evolved their sounds a little bit from the classic sounds that we're used to. If you're looking for new artists like Fisherman, Nifra, Andrew Rayel are also probably the next upcoming generation of trance music producers. If you like it, subscribe, comment, like it if you liked it. Catch you next time.